The hum of machinery echoed through the vast hangar as engineers scrambled to finish Earth's last line of defense. The warships, once relics of an earlier age, were being retrofitted with whatever technology could be scrounged. Earth's space fleet, once a symbol of exploration, was now humanity's final hope against the overwhelming might of the Starborne Empire. Maya Griffin stood at the edge of the hangar, her eyes scanning the fleet. Her fingers tightened around the datapad in her hand, the cold metal a steadying presence. She had always been a soldier, trained to lead in the chaos of war. But this was different. The threat looming over Earth was unlike anything she had ever faced. The Starborne Empire was a vast, unrelenting force, with technology and weapons far beyond anything humanity had ever known. Yet here she was, commanding what remained of Earth's military might. It was a weight she never thought she would bear. "Captain Griffin," a voice broke through her thoughts, and she turned to see Lieutenant Riker Lee approach, his youthful face etched with determination. He was sharp, quick-witted, and brilliant, qualities that had made him an invaluable asset to the fleet. "The Pride of Earth is ready for inspection. We've completed the retrofits. She's not much, but she'll do." Maya nodded, her gaze still on the ships being readied around her. The Pride of Earth was a symbol of everything humanity was trying to hold on to. It wasn't the most advanced ship in the fleet, nor was it the fastest, but it was one of the few that had survived the initial wave of destruction. Built from the skeleton of an old naval carrier and outfitted with experimental space weaponry, the ship was a testament to human ingenuity and stubbornness. She could feel the weight of the moment in her bones. The Starborne had already destroyed countless worlds, and Earth was next. The aliens had made their intentions clear in their ultimatum: surrender or face total annihilation. But Maya wasn't ready to give in. Earth had fought too hard, for too long, to let it all slip away now. There was still hope, slim, but it was there. As Maya and Riker walked toward the Pride of Earth, the crew bustled around them, preparing for launch. Every hand on deck was part of something larger than themselves now. They weren't just soldiers. They were the last chance for humanity to survive. "We've got one shot at this," Riker said, his voice low. "And we're facing a galaxy full of enemies who've never lost a battle. They think they can wipe us out in a week. They're wrong." Maya met his gaze. The fire in his eyes matched her own. She had seen that look before, back in the trenches of previous wars. But this was different. This was the last stand. There was no turning back. "We can do this," she said, more to herself than to Riker. "We don't have the numbers. We don't have the tech. But we have something they don't. We have humanity's will to survive." As they boarded the ship, Maya couldn't help but glance out at the stars. The vast expanse of space stretched endlessly before her. This was it. Earth's future, the fate of billions, depended on this fleet, and it was up to them, up to her, to lead them into the fight of their lives. The engines of the Pride of Earth roared to life, the ship shuddering as it began to lift off. Maya took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The Pride of Earth drifted silently through the cold void of space, flanked by a ragged fleet of warships. Each ship was different. Some were hastily constructed from the remains of decommissioned vessels. Others were older models repurposed for war. They were Earth's last chance, a collection of makeshift power. But as Maya looked out at the fleet, she saw more than just a gathering of ships. She saw humanity's defiance. The alliance between Earth's fractured nations hadn't been easy. Old grudges ran deep, and some factions still believed that submitting to the Starborne would save lives. There were even those who argued that surrendering would preserve the planet's resources for future generations, should the Starborne spare them. But Maya knew that once Earth bent the knee, it would be the end. The Starborne wouldn't stop. They never did. "Captain Griffin." Riker Lee's voice came over the comms, breaking her from her thoughts. "I've just received word from Admiral Walker. He's requesting a briefing on the new strategy for the upcoming operation." Maya sighed, rolling her shoulders to relieve the tension that had built up. She'd been in command of the fleet for weeks now, but every moment felt like a delicate balancing act. Trust was a fragile thing in times like this, and some of the nations had only reluctantly agreed to join the fight. Yet, here they were, working together under the banner of survival. "Understood. I'll meet with him in 10 minutes, she replied, turning to Riker. "Let's make sure the fleet is ready. We can't afford mistakes." Riker nodded and turned to relay the orders, his presence a calm, steadying force among the chaos of the crew. Maya made her way to the command center, where Admiral Walker, a grizzled veteran of Earth's last major conflict, was waiting. He stood at the central table, his arms folded, studying the holographic map that displayed their current position and the movements of the Starborne forces. "Captain," Walker said without looking up, "it's time we took the fight to them. We've located a Starborne advance fleet in the Alpha Centauri system. If we hit them now, we may be able to cripple their forward momentum." Maya studied the map. The Starborne fleet was formidable, far more advanced than anything Earth could match. But Walker was right. They needed to strike, or they risked being overwhelmed by an enemy that would show no mercy. "We don't have the luxury of time," Maya said, stepping closer to the map. "If we can take out their supply lines, it'll delay their invasion. But this has to be a swift, coordinated strike. If we give them a chance to regroup, it's over." Walker's eyes met hers, a flicker of respect passing between them. "I'll rally the fleet. This will be our first real test." Maya felt the weight of his words. This wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about sending a message. Humanity wasn't going down without a fight. As the ships prepared for the operation, Maya found herself at the helm of the Pride of Earth, staring at the void ahead. The stars seemed distant, almost mocking in their serenity. Earth's future lay on the edge of a knife, and one wrong move could spell the end. The Alliance might have been born out of necessity, but it was their only chance. Maya clenched her fists, the surge of adrenaline kicking in. No more hesitation. It was time for humanity to show the Starborne just how much they underestimated them. "Riker," informed the fleet, "we're going in. All ships, prepare for battle." The sound of the crew's voices over the comms was the only response, a chorus of readiness. The Pride of Earth surged forward, leading the charge into enemy territory. The fleet followed, determined to make their stand. This was only the beginning. The Pride of Earth and the rest of the fleet entered the darkness of space, pushing forward toward the Alpha Centauri system. The silence in the cockpit was deafening, broken only by the soft hum of the ship's engines and the occasional chatter on the comms. Maya stared at the vast emptiness before her, the stars distant and cold. This was the unknown, the deep reaches of space where even the brightest minds could be lost. "We've entered the Alpha Centauri system," Riker's voice crackled over the intercom. "No sign of the Starborne fleet yet, but the sensors are picking up an anomaly just beyond the outer rim of the system." Maya frowned. They had expected the Starborne to be close, but this anomaly was something new. Her gut told her it wasn't just a random cosmic phenomenon. It was a trap, but they had no choice but to press on. Every minute they wasted gave the Starborne time to prepare. "Stay alert," she said, gripping the armrests of her chair. "We don't know what's out there." The fleet moved in formation, with the Pride of Earth leading the way. The quiet was almost unnerving, the hum of the engines the only sound as they cut through the darkness. Maya's mind raced through the possibilities. They were close to the Starborne's last known position, and if they had any chance of striking first, it had to be now. Her eyes scanned the tactical display in front of her, marking every ship in their fleet and tracking their positions relative to each other. Then, without warning, the sensors lit up. A massive ship, so large it almost seemed to warp space around it, emerged from the shadows. The Starborne fleet had been hiding in wait, and now they were upon them. "Brace for impact," Maya shouted, and the warning lights in the Pride of Earth flashed red. The Starborne warships were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Their sleek, jagged forms shimmered with energy, weapons already charging. The Pride of Earth shook violently as a volley of plasma bolts slammed into its shields. Maya gripped the controls harder, trying to steady the ship as it rocked. The other ships in the fleet were also under heavy fire. The Starborne had anticipated their arrival, and they weren't holding back. Shields at 60%. Riker's voice came through again, strained with urgency. We're not going to hold much longer if we keep taking hits like this. Hold steady, Maya ordered, her voice calm despite the chaos around her. Return fire. All ships, focus on the nearest Starborne cruiser. Take out their weapons. The fleet surged into battle, their weapons firing in unison. The Pride of Earth unleashed a barrage of ion cannon blasts, striking one of the smaller Starborne cruisers. It rocked under the assault but didn't go down. Maya's heart raced as the battle intensified. The Starborne fleet was relentless, and each shot that hit the human ships caused their shields to flicker dangerously. The anomaly they had detected earlier suddenly began to pulse, an energy wave radiating outward. Maya's eyes widened. What is that? Is it a weapon? It's some kind of energy field, Riker said, his voice tight with disbelief. It's scrambling our targeting systems. We're not hitting anything accurately. Can we disable it? Maya asked, gritting her teeth. I can try to reroute power to the weapon systems, but it'll take time, Riker replied. Maya looked at the incoming Starborne ships. They had little time. The fleet was already falling apart, and the Pride of Earth was taking more damage with each passing second. But they had no choice. This was their only chance to slow the Starborne. Riker, you'll have your time, Maya said, her voice hardening. Everyone else, hold the line. The battle raged on, but Maya had no illusions. They were outgunned, and the Starborne were only getting started. She had to believe that the human spirit, everything that made them stubborn, inventive, and relentless, was enough to turn the tide. If they didn't win today, Earth would fall. But Maya Griffin refused to let that happen. The Pride of Earth fired again, its weapons cracking through the chaos. She gripped the controls tighter, determined to lead her people into whatever came next. The Pride of Earth limped through space, its hull groaning under the strain of battle. Maya sat in the command chair, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The fleet had taken heavy losses during the fight at Alpha Centauri, and now they were heading into the Andromeda system, a region known for its dense asteroid fields and scattered space stations. It was a perfect location for the Starborne to maintain a secret supply base, and Maya knew it was their best shot at crippling the enemy's advance. We've received the latest intel from Admiral Walker, Riker Lee said, stepping up beside her. The Starborne are operating a hidden supply depot here. If we hit it, it could set them back months. But if we're wrong about its location, we risk being ambushed again. Maya nodded, her fingers tapping on the edge of her console. We can't afford to wait. If we don't strike now, they'll overrun the entire solar system. We go in. Full assault. Precision strike. The fleet moved cautiously toward the center of Andromeda, navigating through the asteroid belt with careful precision. The ships in their fleet were battered, some barely holding together after the previous battle. But each crew member knew the stakes. This wasn't just another skirmish. It was humanity's chance to prove they could fight back. Suddenly, the sensors pinged, and a vast expanse of debris appeared on the screen. This is it, Riker said. The supply base should be in this sector. Maya felt her pulse quicken. The Starborne were out there, watching, waiting. Her eyes scanned the horizon, but all she could see were asteroids drifting lazily in the void. A fleeting sense of calm washed over her, but it was quickly replaced by the sharp edge of tension. They were walking into a trap. All ships, prepare for battle, Maya ordered, her voice steady. We move in at full speed, but we remain cautious. Watch your six. No one gets left behind. The fleet spread out, taking formation as they moved deeper into the asteroid field. Every ship was on high alert, every officer double-checking their systems. For a brief moment, the silence of space pressed in on them. the only sound being the hum of engines and the occasional crackle over the comms. Then it happened. A flash of light. The first volley of plasma fire tore through the silence, slamming into the lead ship, a repurposed destroyer from the pre-war era. It exploded into a shower of debris as the Starborne fleet emerged from the shadows, a dozen ships appearing seemingly out of nowhere. Their sleek, dark vessels shimmered ominously in the dim light of the system. Maya's heart skipped a beat. They had known this was coming, but seeing it was another matter entirely. "Focus fire on the lead cruiser," Maya barked, her eyes scanning the incoming fleet. The human ships returned fire, but their weapons were less advanced, slower to recharge, and their aim was thrown off by the looming asteroid field. "Shields are failing on the Pride of Earth," Riker called out, his voice tight with urgency. "We can't keep up with their firepower." "We don't need to keep up," Maya replied, her eyes narrowing. "We just need to stay alive long enough to finish the job." The battle raged around them, a chaotic mess of flashing lights and energy blasts. The fleet fought valiantly, but every hit against their shields made it more difficult to hold their ground. Maya felt the weight of command more than ever before. The lives of every man and woman in her fleet were on the line, and every decision she made could mean the difference between survival and destruction. "Riker, where is that supply depot?" Maya demanded, her voice low but full of purpose. "Just ahead," he said, tapping his console furiously. "We've pinpointed its location. If we can break through their lines, we'll be able to disable it." Maya nodded sharply. "Then we break through. All ships, push forward." With a sudden burst of speed, the human fleet surged forward, cutting through the Starborne defenses. The Pride of Earth led the charge, cutting a path through the chaos. Maya's eyes locked onto the depot, a massive space station built into the side of an asteroid, heavily fortified, and surrounded by enemy ships. "Get in close," she shouted. The fleet moved as one, weaving through the dense asteroid field, dodging blasts and avoiding debris. They reached the station, and the battle intensified. The Pride of Earth unleashed its full firepower, slamming into the station's weak points, causing a chain reaction. Explosions rippled across the surface of the station as human ships engaged in a desperate assault. "We've done it," Riker said, his voice barely audible over the din of the battle. "The depot's gone." Maya's heart sank with relief, but she knew the victory would be short-lived. The Starborne would retaliate, and they would retaliate with everything they had. "Prepare to withdraw," Maya ordered. "All ships, fall back to formation. We need to get out of here. Now." As the fleet pulled back, the Pride of Earth led the way, their mission successful, but the cost yet to be fully realized. The Starborne were not finished, and neither was the fight. But for now, humanity had a victory, and with it, a small glimmer of hope. The Pride of Earth limped back to the outer edge of the Andromeda system, its hull scarred by the battle. The fleet was battered but alive. The victory at the Starborne supply depot, a rare spark of hope in the otherwise bleak war. Maya stood on the bridge, watching as the crew tended to the damage, their movements precise despite the exhaustion etched on their faces. Riker stood beside her, his expression grim. "We did it, but at what cost? We lost 3 ships, and the fleet is barely holding together." Maya didn't need to look at the numbers to know how close they'd come to being wiped out. The Starborne might have been thrown off course for a moment, but the Empire's retaliation would be swift and merciless. Every victory they claimed seemed to push them closer to the brink of annihilation. "We've bought ourselves some time," Maya said, her voice low but steady. "That's all we have. Time to figure out our next move before the Starborne can recover." The communications officer, Lieutenant Daryl Kim, spoke up from the comm station. "Captain, we've received a message from Admiral Walker. He's requesting a strategic briefing. He wants to discuss our next operation." Maya nodded. "Set up the briefing, Lieutenant. We don't have much time." The meeting was held in the war room, the walls illuminated by holographic displays of the galaxy. The mood was somber, the weight of the last battle still hanging heavy in the air. Admiral Walker stood at the head of the table, his hands clasped behind his back, staring at the map before him. Captain Griffin, the success of the raid was impressive. Walker began, his tone pragmatic. But it's only a small setback for the Starborne. We've struck their supply lines, but they're far from crippled. We've learned they're gathering forces for a full-scale assault on Earth. We need to act quickly. Maya listened intently, absorbing every detail. What's our next move, Admiral? Walker gestured to the map, where a series of coordinates flashed. We have reason to believe the Starborne are preparing to launch a final offensive from a secret base in the Lyra system. If they succeed in establishing a forward base there, they'll be within striking distance of Earth itself. We need to hit them hard and fast before they can complete their preparations. Maya's mind raced. A full-scale assault on Earth would be catastrophic. The Starborne would take no prisoners. They would raise the planet if given the chance. How much time do we have? Not much, Walker replied. Their fleet is already in motion. But if we move now, we can catch them off guard. We'll need every ship we have. If we can disable their base in Lyra, we'll delay their assault on Earth long enough to prepare our defenses. Maya glanced at Riker, who was already studying the map, his brow furrowed in thought. He turned to her and nodded. We don't have the resources to engage in another prolonged fight. We hit them hard, disable their base, and get out before they can retaliate. I agree, Maya said. This is our last chance to slow them down, but we need to be strategic. No heroics this time. We strike fast, hit them where it hurts, and then retreat. Walker smiled grimly. Sounds like the only plan we have. I'll mobilize the fleet. We'll rendezvous in the Lyra system in 3 hours. As the meeting wrapped up, Maya stood in silence for a moment, staring at the flickering map. Every mission had felt like a gamble, but this one was different. If they failed, it would be the beginning of the end. The Starborne Empire wasn't just coming for Earth, they were coming for humanity itself. She turned to Riker, who had stayed behind. His eyes locked on the map. This could be it. If we don't succeed in Lyra. We will succeed, Riker interrupted, his voice firm. We've beaten the odds before, and we'll do it again. We have no choice. Maya met his gaze, nodding slowly. You're right. We fight until the end. The pride of Earth and its fleet of battered ships would once again take to the stars, hoping that this last, desperate strike would be enough to stave off the destruction of humanity. But Maya knew the cost of victory in this war was high, and every battle, every decision, brought them closer to a reckoning they couldn't escape. The Lyra system loomed large in the fleet's viewports, a star at the center of a chaotic patchwork of asteroid fields and dark nebulae. Maya stood on the bridge of the Pride of Earth, her eyes scanning the tactical display. The fleet had arrived just outside the system's perimeter, and the tension was palpable. This was their chance to strike, and if they didn't make it count, Earth would fall. Captain Griffin, Riker's voice came through her earpiece. We've confirmed the Starborne base is located on the third planet from the Sun. It's well defended. Multiple warships in orbit, along with planetary defenses. We'll need to breach those defenses to get to the surface. Maya took a deep breath, her hand steady on the console. Understood. We'll take them by surprise. No hesitation. We hit hard, disable their defenses, and get out before they can retaliate. The fleet was already in position, ships spread out in a tight formation, prepared for the imminent assault. Maya's heart beat faster in her chest as the countdown to launch began. This would be their most dangerous mission yet. If they failed, the Starborne would have a direct line to Earth's defenses. Humanity would be defenseless, their last line of defense wiped out. Captain, incoming transmission from Admiral Walker. Daryl Kim, the comms officer, said. He's ready to launch the strike. Maya nodded and keyed in the comms. Admiral, we're ready. Commence the strike. The signal came back almost immediately. This is it, Captain. Let's make it count. Good hunting." With that, the fleet surged forward, cutting through the blackness of space toward the planet below. The Starborne base came into view, a sprawling complex surrounded by a ring of defense platforms, orbital stations, and warships. It was a formidable fortress, one that seemed almost impenetrable. But Maya knew that humanity had one thing the Starborne did not: the element of surprise. "Ready the weapons," Maya ordered. "Prepare for the first wave of assault." The Pride of Earth led the charge, its ion cannons firing in quick succession. The initial salvo rocked the Starborne defenses, but it was only a distraction. Behind the Pride of Earth, the rest of the fleet poured fire into the enemy's outermost stations. Plasma bolts and railgun rounds streaked through space, tearing into the Starborne ships. But as anticipated, the Starborne retaliated with deadly precision. A wave of missiles shot toward the fleet, and the first few ships began to veer off course, their shields collapsing under the barrage. "Brace for impact," Riker shouted, as the Pride of Earth shook from a direct hit. The shields flickered, sparking wildly, but held. Maya gritted her teeth. "We have to push through," Maya said firmly. "All ships, focus fire on their shield generators. We need to break their defenses." The fleet responded in unison, focusing their fire on the planetary defenses. The Starborne retaliated fiercely, but the humans pressed on, fighting with everything they had. Every ship in their fleet was battered, but the Starborne were just as relentless. Maya could hear the sounds of blaring alarms through the comms, as various ships struggled to stay in the fight. The Pride of Earth led the assault on the planet's surface, its massive cannons firing directly at the base. The ground trembled beneath them as massive explosions sent debris soaring into space. Maya's eyes narrowed. This was their chance. The base was taking heavy damage, but the Starborne weren't going down without a fight. The warships were still in orbit, and they had not yet disabled the planetary shields. "We need to take down their planetary shield generators," Maya said, her voice tense. "Riker, can you get us to the generator's location?" Riker studied his console, his face tense. "I've got a lock on it. We can make the run if we're quick." Maya turned to the helm. "All hands, prepare for a direct assault. We're going in." The Pride of Earth angled downward, cutting through the atmosphere at breakneck speed. The atmosphere buckled and cracked under the force of their entry, but the ship held steady. Maya watched as they descended closer to the generator's location. This was it. If they could destroy the generator, the Starborne would be vulnerable, and the rest of the fleet could take down their defenses. "Hold on," Riker yelled. The ship plummeted, blasting through layers of atmosphere. The target loomed ahead, the massive shield generator buried in the planet's surface. Maya's heart pounded in her chest as the ship released a final barrage of energy. The explosion was deafening. For a moment, everything went silent. Then the shockwave of the explosion reverberated across the planet's surface, knocking out the planetary shields and sending ripples through the remaining Starborne forces. "We did it," Riker said, disbelief in his voice. Maya could only nod, her eyes fixed on the chaos unfolding around them. The fleet was breaking through, but the fight was far from over. The Starborne would not let this loss go unpunished. "Stay sharp," Maya ordered, her gaze steady. "We've only just begun." The destruction of the planetary shield generator had sent shockwaves through the Lyra system, but the Starborne Empire was far from defeated. Maya stood at the command chair, watching the chaos unfold around her. The fleet had made a breakthrough, but the Starborne were not so easily deterred. As their shields fell, the Starborne retaliated with a ferocity that took the humans by surprise. "We've punched a hole in their defenses, but they're regrouping," Riker reported from the tactical station. "Their remaining warships are reorganizing, and they're heading toward our position. It's a counterstrike, Captain. They're coming for us." Maya's heart pounded in her chest. The Starborne were relentless. It was as though they'd been waiting for this moment, waiting for humanity to overextend. The fleet was battered, its ships in varying states of damage. Even the Pride of Earth was struggling to stay operational, its hull scarred from earlier assaults. "We need to pull back, regroup," Riker continued, his voice tight with concern. "If we stay here too long, we'll be outnumbered. We've inflicted damage, but we can't win this fight without reinforcements." Maya looked at the tactical display, where Starborne ships were already entering the system in force. There was no question. If they stayed, the fleet would be destroyed. But if they retreated, would they even make it out alive? "We're not retreating," Maya said, her voice steely. "We've come too far. This is our chance to strike a blow they won't recover from. We fight." Riker's expression softened, but he nodded. He knew she was right. There was no turning back now. Earth's last hope rested on this moment. "All ships, prepare for a full assault," Maya ordered. "We break through their lines, hit their command ships, and then we get out. We don't have time for hesitation. We go for their jugular." The fleet surged forward, cutting through the void of space toward the regrouping Starborne forces. The Pride of Earth led the charge once more, its weapons firing in rapid succession. Plasma bolts and ion blasts tore through the dark expanse, slamming into the Starborne warships. But the enemy was adapting. Their formations tightened, and they returned fire with a deadly precision. Maya's hand tightened on the controls, her eyes narrowing. She could see the Starborne command ships at the heart of the enemy formation, heavily guarded by smaller warships and automated defense drones. "If we can take down their command ships, we'll scatter their fleet," Maya said. "We target their leaders, then we break through." The Pride of Earth cut through the chaos, narrowly dodging a barrage of missiles that streaked toward them. Maya watched as one of the human ships behind them took a direct hit, its shields collapsing and its hull crumpling under the force. "We're losing ships," Riker shouted. "We need to pull back now, Captain. We can't keep this up much longer." Maya gritted her teeth, her determination unwavering. "No, keep pushing. We don't give up. Not now." The Pride of Earth locked onto the nearest Starborne command ship, unleashing a torrent of fire. The shields on the enemy ship flickered, then began to fail under the assault. Maya's heart raced as she saw the ship's energy cores beginning to destabilize. One final push, and it would be down. "Fire everything," she commanded. The final volley hit the Starborne command ship with devastating force. It erupted in a brilliant explosion, sending debris and energy cascading in all directions. Maya watched as the Starborne fleet recoiled, their formation faltering. They had struck a devastating blow. But their victory was short-lived. The remaining Starborne ships weren't retreating. They were regrouping, and they were angrier than ever. "Captain," Riker said urgently, "they're launching a counteroffensive. We need to fall back now, or we'll be surrounded." Maya's eyes flickered to the display. The situation was growing increasingly dire. Earth's fleet was severely damaged, and the Starborne were closing in. But Maya refused to give up. "All ships, break through their lines. We make for the outer rim of the system. If we can make it to the asteroid belt, we can lose them." As the fleet pushed forward, the Pride of Earth led the way, dodging incoming fire, narrowly escaping destruction. Maya's mind raced as they neared the asteroid field, a last-ditch effort to evade their enemies. With a sudden jolt, the Pride of Earth hit a stray piece of debris, causing the ship to shudder violently. Maya gripped the controls tighter, her heart racing. They couldn't afford any more hits. Hold together," she muttered under her breath. One by one, the remaining ships followed the Pride of Earth into the asteroid belt. The Starborne were relentless, but the human fleet was nimble. It was their best chance to survive. For now, they had escaped, but the battle was far from over. The fleet had made it into the asteroid belt, a narrow escape from the Starborne counteroffensive. But the respite was short-lived. Maya's hands gripped the command chair tightly as the Pride of Earth and the surviving ships coasted through the asteroid field. The atmosphere on the bridge was heavy, everyone fully aware that they had only delayed the inevitable. Status report, Maya ordered, her voice firm. We've lost half the fleet, Captain, Riker said, his eyes scanning the reports. Shields are down on the remaining ships. Most are holding on by a thread. We've got a few hours, at most, before we have no firepower left to defend ourselves. The weight of those words hit Maya harder than she cared to admit. They were at the edge of space, surrounded by jagged rocks and debris. No safe haven, no reinforcements on the way. The enemy was out there, regrouping, preparing to finish what they had started. Humanity's last hope was hanging by a thread. Any word from Admiral Walker? Maya asked, trying to keep the edge of panic from creeping into her voice. Not yet, Riker replied, glancing at his console. We're cut off from the fleet's main communication channel. They may be too far behind to make it here in time. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Maya knew that if the Starborne tracked them through the asteroid field, they would be sitting ducks, unable to defend themselves against an oncoming wave of enemy ships. They couldn't outrun them forever. Their only hope now was to hit back before the Starborne had a chance to regroup. Maya, we need to make a stand, Riker said after a moment, his voice resolute. We can't just keep running. We take the fight to them. If we can disable their command ships, we might just have a chance. Maya's eyes locked with his. She knew this was their final option, and it could very well be their last mission. But running wasn't an option anymore. She could already feel the weight of Earth's future pressing down on her shoulders. Prepare the fleet, Maya said, her voice calm but carrying the weight of authority. We're going to take out their command ships. No more running. We fight. The bridge hummed as the crew scrambled to prepare for the final assault. Maya moved to the tactical display, zooming in on the Starborne fleet's position. They were still in the outer rim of the system, not far from the asteroid belt. If they launched a surprise attack now, they might be able to catch the Starborne off guard. Riker, get me the coordinates for their command ship formation, Maya ordered. Riker input the data, his fingers moving quickly across the console. I've got it. They're in a defensive formation, but there's a weak point in the rear. If we hit them from that angle, we might be able to breach their lines. Maya nodded, her eyes narrowing. We're going in full throttle. No hesitation. The Pride of Earth will lead the charge. All ships follow suit. The fleet began to move, creeping through the asteroid field toward the Starborne forces. The tension was palpable. Every member of the crew knew what this meant. Their lives, their survival, and the future of humanity hung on this last strike. The Starborne Empire might have crushed everything in its path, but humanity had shown that it was not so easily defeated. Not while they still had breath in their lungs. Captain, they're aware of our movement, Riker said, his voice low. The Starborne fleet is preparing to turn and face us. They know we're coming. Maya clenched her jaw. Then we'll hit them harder. All ships, brace for impact. Engage the enemy on my mark. The Pride of Earth led the charge, surging through the asteroid belt with a roar of engines, cutting past jagged rocks and space debris. The Starborne ships were turning to face them, their weapons charging. Mark, Maya shouted. The Pride of Earth unleashed its full firepower, unleashing a torrent of plasma and energy beams into the Starborne command ships. The barrage tore into the enemy ships, shields flickering before they collapsed completely. Maya's heart raced as she watched the Starborne forces falter, their ships scattering in disarray. But even as they fought back with everything they had, Maya knew that the fleet couldn't sustain this much longer. Every shot from the Pride of Earth and its surviving allies was a blow to the Starborne, but their retaliation was swift and brutal. We're losing ships, Riker said, his voice tight with strain. We won't be able to hold them off much longer. Keep fighting. Maya barked, her eyes hard. We've come too far to lose now. The battle raged on, each moment a blur of explosions, fire, and chaos. But in the thick of it all, Maya saw it, the flicker of hope. The Starborne command ships, heavily damaged, were beginning to break apart. Their defensive lines were crumbling. In that moment, Maya knew what they had to do. "Target their central command ship," she shouted. "All ships, focus fire. This is our last chance." With one final, all-out assault, the Pride of Earth and the remaining ships of the fleet fired everything they had left. The central command ship exploded in a brilliant burst of light, its core destabilizing and taking out the remaining enemy warships with it. For the first time in weeks, the bridge fell silent. The Starborne had been defeated, but at a cost. The fleet had given everything. And Earth, for the moment, was safe. Maya stood in silence, the weight of the battle still heavy in her chest. They had won, but the war was far from over.